Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another moment of this program, a New Direction podcast. In this podcast, we bring to light issues that has to do with life, issues that has to do with the solution that humanity are waiting to see. Well, in the world today, a lot of questions has been asked, seeing the happening in our world. Some people ask a question like, what is going on? Is it that there is no God? Some ask and even conclude that there is no God. But the question is there no God? There is. That is why we have this forum, to bring to light, to bring to our world, the God that the world is waiting to see, the solution that we are waiting to see, where it will come from and who it will come from, which is the God of heaven. But there is something about this God that everyone needs to understand. Because the way we have been seeing God to be is a spirit that is in the sky that cannot be seen. But we keep asking, when you are looking for a solution from God and you are expecting God to come and help you, how is God going to come and help you? Is he going to come standing on the sky there, or he will be with us in our midst to help us? That brings us to this moment we always have, to bring to the world that birth of the Spirit in our generation today. But the birth of the Spirit in the generation brings peace, brings solution, brings a better world, a better living to humanity as a whole. But at the same time, it can also generate a problem to a lot of people who will not embrace it. So that is why it's written that the birth of the child is for the fall and rising of many. So, why is it fall and rising of many? Just like I said before, that when God is birthed in the generation of man, he's supposed to bring peace. He's supposed to bring a good life. But when we ignore it, it brings crisis. So, today, we'll be discussing about something very important, because there's a lot of crisis in the world today, and we don't really know why those crises has been. Could it be because there's a God in our midst that we ignore? I would say yes, that is it. So in today's topic, we'll be discussing on the issue, and that issue is the necessity to understand or to know when God is in our midst, because there is a lot of danger that follows it, like I said before, if we ignore it. So discussing this issue here today with me are my brethren, as usual. They are Brother Savior.
Good morning to you all.
I have Sister Yuti.
Good morning to you all.
I have Brother Oche.
Good morning.
And I also have Brother David.
Good morning, everyone.
My name is Brother Kufre. First, we'll be discussing on the topic God. That word God. For me, it's very important for everyone to understand, first, who God is and how God is supposed to be in our midst. That is to say, how we are going to have God. How are we supposed to have God in our midst to be able to identify that this is God in our midst? Go to the fact that the way we know God to be before now is that spirit in the sky that you cannot see. That spirit in the sky that we believe that we cannot see. But coming to understand what God stands for and who God is and what He's supposed to serve in our world today. So I would like our world to understand who God is first. Let's deliberate on that first before we go into the danger, which is why we put the title, The Necessity to Understand or to know when God is in our midst.
Oh, God as an entity or as a being first.
God as a being, not as an entity. That's why I said who God is. When I use the word who God is removing what we used to know God to be. Because in this forum we have been talking about, in this podcast we have been talking about God, the birth of God in our midst. That is all we try to point to our world,
Yes.
to understand the birth of God in the generation of today.
Yes.
And we've discussed the issue to point to the fact that the Lord, being the spirit that generated humanity as a whole, is not God, which is who we see as God. But coming to understand right now is that that spirit, before he can come to be with the generation, he needs to provide a first way he would dwell in to guide humanity as a whole. And that mark is present in the generation of men. So that's why I said we need to understand first who God is. Put that out to our world to understand before we can now move forward. Because that is where somebody is going to see the danger that surround that personality when we ignore him.
It's surprising that that question still looms in a vacuum rather, who God is, because everybody seems to know who God is.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to know who God is. So we still find ourselves in a situation where every time we are asking, who is God, or what is God, where is God, who is God, that question still looms. So now we are asking again, who is God? And we are trying to give an answer to it that should clear the common misconception that we have lived with for decades or for centuries. So everyone believes God or knows God. What I'm saying know God, because there's nobody you ask that doesn't claim to know
God.
or seem to know who God is.
Yes.
So everybody knows God to be a spirit that operates out of the sky.
Yes.
That's who everybody knows God to be.
Yeah.
So the idea of God being in human form, we find it to be absurd, because just as we keep on saying on this forum that the nature of man is deeply rooted in sin. So when we talk about God being in bodily form or God being a person that we can see, we find it absurd, because we think God being in a bodily form limits him, because being in this form, he's going to have to operate with that spirit of man that each and every one of us operates with. But that's the misconception we try to clear on this podcast, that God would definitely be a person, because that's how it had been programmed. But what we need to understand is that his operating system, that's the spirit he's going to operate with, is what has been described as the spirit of God.
Yes.
That what we as men operate with is the spirit of man.
Yes.
So that person who would be God in our midst would operate with that spirit that is of God. So that's what makes him different from us, irrespective of the fact that he will get to look like us. So when we talk about God, we are ruling out the fact that, or not the fact, we are ruling out the possibility of a sky or a breezy kind of personality. But we are trying to look at, or we are looking at a person who would embody the fullness the fullness in terms of capacity of that spirit that is of God, to render solution, to render help to humanity. Because following your brief introduction, you can see that that's what we all cry for. We cry for help, we cry for solution, and we have unanimously agreed that it can only come from God.
Yes.
But when you look at the way we function in our society, we find ourselves looking for that said help that we believe can only come from God, from the hands of men. We find ourselves looking for help from men. That shows or points to one thing, that God who we have agreed that help would come from would definitely be a person that we can access to get that help from. That is what we don't understand, because it has been deeply rooted in our subconsciousness. So we are not conscious of the fact that God will be a person. And most times we tend to refer to the Bible in Numbers that says that, or that states that God is not a man, that he should lie. But we have coined out a part of that passage, and we have just abbreviated it to be God is not a man. But even at that, it's still a warning. Just as I said earlier, that man is the spirit that we operate with. So God is not a man, does not eliminate him being a person,
see.
but it eliminates him operating with that spirit that is of man. So it's like a warning, which is why we are dealing on the risk factor of having God with us and not know that there is God with us, because there is a possibility or there's a chance that you can dish out or mete out some kind of crazy treatment to him. Sometimes even challenging without knowing he's God. So there's a risk to having God with us. So which is what we are trying to clear. But the first thing we need everyone to understand is the fact that God, whom we are talking about, the Almighty God, is not an air spirit.
Yes.
Especially in time of fulfillment, is not an air spirit. That God, the Almighty God we all cry for, is a person whom in time of fulfillment would embody the fullness of capacity of the Spirit of God to function as a figurehead or as that leader, that ultimate leader in the midst of men, to lead them and show them how to align their ways to that God which we all seem or want to please. I would like to briefly refer us to something that has been stated in the Bible in Acts chapter 17, verse 29. Yeah, we can read to 31, but not everything. So I'll just go ahead to read it. And it's just trying to clear off the idea we have about God being an air spirit.
Acts 17 from.
Yeah, Acts 17 from verses 29 to 31. Yeah, but as I said earlier, we won't be reading everything. So 29, it goes, for as much then as we are the offspring of God, we ought not to think that the Godhead is like unto gold or silver or stone, graven by art and man's device.
Okay.
That's just trying to clear off the misconception we have that God is an air spirit, because we say that we have been made in the image and likeness of God. But the idea of having God embody a person, embody a being like us, now becomes absurd, as I said earlier. So it's like God made us the way we are, but he can't be like this. It's crazy, because if he didn't negotiate with him and we claim he's the one who made us, and we didn't negotiate with him to bring us into the world and bring us the way we are, having one head, two hands, two legs, that means that that's the way he is, irrespective of the fact that we can't see him. Isn't
Yes,
it? Because
yes.
if
That's
we are,
how it is.
yes,
Because we always claim that we have been made in the image of God. And when we make those statements, we attribute the image to be
How we look.
our
The
bodily
physical
form, the way we
appearance.
look.
Yes.
Even though that is not what the image
Yes.
attribute to.
Yes, it's the
But
likeness,
if
like-
that is what it is,
Yes.
it means we're supposed to also understand that if we claim that God, we have been made in that image, so that image is that we look like God. It also means that if God appear today, it will just be like us. That's what it is. So why do we now on one side have this belief, then on the other side of it we ignore that belief that we see claim that we believe in?
Yes.
That is why that he put in that verse 30, he put something there in
Yes,
verse
he
30.
says, and the times of this ignorance God winked at, but now commanded all men everywhere to repent. 31 goes as far as saying, because he had appointed a day in the which he would judge the world in righteousness by that man whom he had ordained.
You see?
By that man whom he had ordained. And we describe what judgment means.
Yeah.
A means of correction, a corrective measure. So it shows you that for that correction, for that judgment that is of correction, which is of God, to come to us, because we have all come to know and understand that our ways are out of the ordinance of God.
Yeah.
So if that correction should come to us, it can't come to us from the sky, which is why we have all the problems we have, because everybody is talking to the sky, looking for help, looking for solution, and we can't hear back. We can't hear anything from the sky. So when we just go and do what we do in the name of talking to the sky, Whatever comes to our mind, we go and do, and we attribute it to God.
Yes.
So he's saying that he looked at that display of ignorance, and he winked at it.
Yes.
And said that he had
the time has
ordained.
come.
Yes, he had ordained. He had ordained. How was it put? He had ordained a man who would come
And judge.
to judge his people
Yes.
in righteousness. That's to show us the right path, the right way we have to follow.
Yes.
So you see, this God we are talking about is completely different from what we all know in the world today about who God is.
What you just described now is who God is. Then we need to understand that why God should be a person among us.
Yes.
Because of the work that he needs to be done in us.
Yes.
That's why he needs to be a person among, because he have to give us guide. He have to give us some command. And command are not written. Command are being said.
Yes.
If there's nobody to say that command to you, you won't be able to follow it.
Exactly.
If I write a command and give to you on a paper, you won't know when to follow that command
Yes.
until you hear my voice. So that's why we need that personality as God among God. It's necessary that we have a person in our midst as God because of the work that he needs to be done in us.
Yes.
That's the most important. That's what we have to understand. It's not that we're saying God have to be a person, but why should God be a person? Is
It's important.
what we need to understand because of the work that he needs to be carried in us as man.
No, when you say why God should be a person, it's like it's we that wants it to be so.
Yeah,
You understand? But God already ordained the spirit.
That is the program.
Yes, that is how it will be. No, we as men, we look at the spirit to be something that you cannot see. But if you look at in Corinthians, as he stated, the what man knoweth are the things of man, save the spirit of man that is in him. That means that there's a spirit. Man is a spirit, but you can sight the person. So he said, in that vein, likewise, God.
You can sight the body carrying the spirit.
Yes, as men as we are. So he says it's a spirit, but we can see each other. That means a spirit is something you can see. But the activity, the function of that spirit, the kind of spirit you carry, will tell what kind of spirit it is. In that same vein, you see God. He said the things of God, knoweth no man, save the spirit of God. That means there is God, which is the body. There's a spirit that is of that body. That's what makes it the spirit of God. You know, you also mentioned something in a child that will be set. This child is set for the fall and rising of many in Israel. So when it comes to a child, likewise, we see the spirit to be what we cannot see. But now you can, if you clearly see it, you know that the spirit is something you can identify with. It's not something you cannot see. If you cannot see it, how do you know that it's a spirit? You understand? So a child that is set for the fall and rising of many is God. So as man, we see a child to be a baby. You understand? But God is a grown-up. With God, he is an adult. But it comes with the newness of something, which is, if you look at in Isaiah, it says a child will be born, a son will be given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder of that child, and his name shall be called Wonderful. That is not a baby. A counselor, a mighty God is from that person, from a child that was born. To see that God has to be a person, and he comes as a child, which is the nature of that emptiness, you understand? The nature of without sin. So that was made God to be born in our midst. He's not a baby. But before you get to adult, he's born as a baby also. You understand? But before the time comes, because he has a set time that he will come to make himself known, the Spirit will now know this is who I am. That's why, as we discussed today, say it is necessary. Why it is necessary to know when God is in our midst? Because it's not an air spirit that we used to know. It's a body. It's not something of a choice. No, we as men, we act as if we have a choice in life. But if you trace from the origin, we don't have a choice. So when it comes to the things of God, it's not a choice. It's not an option to be choose from. You understand? It's something that must be. That's why it started there in Ecclesiastes that the whole duty of man is to fear God and keep his commandments. So it's not a thing of a choice, but the thing of a command that will be good. Because if you have a choice, you should be at the end. You can choose. Nothing should happen to you, and it will not happen because it's your choice.
I remember the video we used when we talked about giving. when a man was talking about, a preacher was talking about how he gave money to
God.
God. And in the God that he gave the money, you see that there was a man that he gave the money to. For us, we think that the men represent God. They are the representative of God. Since we cannot see God, so it's the men that we see who come from the God. That's what we believe. So we try to draw some emphasis like, if you carry your hard-earned money, as we call it, and you are taking it to God, and you can't see God, and there's a man that need to collect this money from you, or there's a man that you need to give this thing to, because God never from the back of the man and stretch forth his hand and collect the thing from us.
Yes.
Somebody must collect it.
Yes.
We have said that according to the principle, that is how it is. The person you give to is your God.
Yes.
But it is just that the person is not the one that was made to form that image.
Yes.
Where the Spirit formed that image as God, built as God in the midst of a people. And now we now talked about when you now have that person, that is which is now the reason why you can't give God something. When you have such a being in our generation, that being now come with the Spirit that generated all of us and produce everything and bring us even the knowledge we have. So, and whatever thing you bring to such a person, you are not giving him something.
No.
Because the Spirit that is in him is the Spirit that owns all of us.
Yes.
And owns everything that we have.
Yes.
So you see that according to the principle, you must see somebody.
Yes.
That is the same thing in Isaiah. When the prophecy was made in Isaiah 7, talks about how a virgin shall conceive and bear a child, and thou shalt call his name Emmanuel. You said it there, the last moment that we had. Yeah. And you now come to Matthew 1 from 22, you see it there. When all the processes that was carried out, all the things that was carried out, from 22 he said, now all this was done to be fulfilled, that which was spoken of by the prophet, that a virgin shall conceive and bear a child, and thou shalt call his name Emmanuel. Being interpreted, God with us. It means if a prophecy was put out, and now the time of the prophecy is to be fulfilled, a vessel need to be provided for the Spirit to gain access to be able to help humanity.
Yes.
And that body that the Spirit gain access to automatically mark the presence of God with the people.
Yes.
We do ask, you mean all this while the people have not had God? Because that's what it is. Yeah. If God need to be with the people at the advent of the Jesus Christ as is the picture painted, it means the people never have God. They never have God.
Yes.
That is why I now said, before me, there was no God formed that was formed.
Yes.
Because people believed or thought that they had God.
Yes.
And there's something I want to add from this Bible portion that we read. That is Acts chapter 17 from 31. That talks about, because he had appointed a day in the which he will judge the whole world in righteousness by that man whom he had ordained. So to clearly see that the God that we know as a spirit must be in a body. Because the God we are expecting to judge us, how is he going to judge us? You understand? If you stated here that he has appointed a day that he will judge the world in righteousness by that man, that means that man is God. You understand? So there's no way you can see God without seeing a body. So God must be seen in a body in order to give us guide, to direct us, without which everybody reads this Bible and derive his own interpretation. But this thing was written according to the knowledge of the Lord, of the one that brought it. It wasn't our knowledge.
Well, for me, I will say anybody that reads it will always derive his knowledge.
Yes.
Because what we have come to understand today is not because we read it.
Yes.
We have been reading it for years. We never have this understanding. But just as the advent of that spirit in the vessel of that person, it now show the light that we now have today to try to point to our word. It's not because we are sitting down here to exercise knowledge, to show people what we know. Do you understand?
Yes.
That's not what it is. But because what we have come to know It's not the knowledge we are talking about. It's the person by whom the capacity has already been given to help humanity as a whole.
Yes.
That is what we have come to know. So that extends the brief knowledge that we have, and we are trying to put to our word to understand that this is the only way things can work.
Yes.
Because if you are living a life, and this life you are living, you don't understand the spiritual things. Because no man in this the face of the earth that understand the part of the God. That is why we have the men we always go to. Remember the last time, the man was said, today all of us claim that we have the word. But what the capacity of liberation power, that is the way he put it.
The liberating power.
The liberating power that word supposed to have is not seen. Because there is something the word of God supposed to liberate us from.
From bondage.
Yes, from the life of sin, the life of death, to a life of life. Let me put it like the living of life.
Yeah.
Because today we do not have life. Yeah. But if you listen to what I said from the beginning, I said, when the birth of this person is in the midst of the people, and even though the people don't know, and they ignore him, because you don't ignore him because you know. Mm-hmm. You ignore him because as long as you continue to do the things that you think you can do, that is weird in the world. Because he has already been warned that we should not swear at all. That is to say, we should not think that we can do without God.
Yes.
Don't ever think you can do. That's what it is. Because whenever you think you can do, you see that God, you have kept God aside. Yes. And every of the thing you will be suffering, you see that you see cry for help. So right now, the ignorant we have is not because we do not have an idea that it is only God that's supposed to fix the problem we are seeing today. We know. We have an idea. But that's delusion that we have in us that make us think that God is going to be in the sky. You can't see God. Like you keep saying, how do you have a solution from somebody that you cannot see? How?
So the bottom line is that's why in one of our episodes, I made a statement that the hardest pill we humans will have to swallow on the face of this earth is to come to agree to the fact that the God we all cry for, the God we all call upon, is going to be somebody looking just like us. Yeah. And this is the hardest pill that we all as humans must swallow. And this pill, we must swallow it for our own good, yes. If we must have divine solution.
Yes.
God is not God because of our problems. A lot of us, we cry for God. I wonder what we cry for God to come and do for us. Is it to come and solve our personal problems? Before now, there is a program drawn by the Spirit of the Lord. And that program is that He will bring man first without God. For man to exist and have challenges and think that he can solve problems for himself, and later discover in the course of his existence that he cannot solve divine problem for himself. So there will be a need to cry for God. Yes. That naturally tells you that God did not come first, yes, because of that divine program. So it will not be our cry that will bring God. Because it's like God, when he is on ground, he will now have to listen to our demands and our needs and what have been pinching us so that he can pay attention to it. Mm-hmm. That is the danger part of looking at who God is.
Come so that you might be.
God have a divine program, and that divine program is to bring a divine and lasting solution to human problem. And what is that human problem? The nature of man.
Yes.
That divine problem that can only be solved by him is to remove that nature, that human nature.
That causes the
Is to come to kill that our desire, what we want to achieve, what we want to become.
Wow.
Is to come and kill it so that his will be done in us.
Yes.
So the danger part of looking at this issue is to remove completely our ambition, what we think that when we meet with the person of God, he can do for us. And then focus on knowing that we do not even know from the beginning who God is. His lifestyle, we don't know who he is. We don't know his lifestyle. So we have to be humble enough to listen to him, to show us the life we don't have. So that we will now be able to follow that life and get to the divine solution that he came with.
Yes.
This is who he is. This is how to stand at a safe place when approaching the person of God.
Yes.
That is the way forward. That's the way forward.
So, following what we just explained now, trying to point out the birth of God in a generation, how God need to be with us, how God need to come and be with us. Because if you, from everything we have discussed, you see that the way we know God to be in our world is not the way God is.
Yes.
And it can never be the way God is, because something that you have never seen before, there's no any possibility that you can know how that thing look.
No.
It's not possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Rather, until when that thing appears, and now maybe you have a kind of
Encounter.
a lock to encounter him, because he take the lock or maybe favor before God, somebody can encounter God. Because when you do encounter God, you won't know. So we are not saying this thing because we know we encounter somebody on the road and we know. We're not saying that because we encounter somebody and know. We are saying this because when we come across this person and he begin to speak to us, instruct us on what to do, we never knew that this is the birth of the Spirit.
Yes.
We just believe that this is one of the man that is of God, but is different among all the men of God. Like somebody once told me that the person that he knows, he can say that is the only sincere man of God in the entire world.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody said that to me.
Yeah.
By his personal experience.
By his personal experience with the person, that he knows that he's the only sincere man of God in the entire world. That is what the person said.
Yes.
But that when I say he is God, that is where he's holding the break that he's holding. Because the God that we always know is not somebody. I said, that is very good. You see? But you believe that this person is the only
Sincere person.
sincere man that is coming from God.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can see his character, you can see the things he's doing, you can see the things he say, all the character that they exhibit as God, as the personality of God.
Yes.
But when it has to do with that title, God,
That's where you have a problem.
that is where you have a problem. But you see, the person never tell you, I am God. But because in everything you are hearing from him, he show you that what he's saying, which is not talking, he shows that he is God.
Is that not the identity they should even use to identify who God is? Because God is not just a spirit that we know. Is the attribute, the personality, is function that will show you that is God. Because the way we are looking at men, that I said that I see the way we are behaving, it shows that our character doesn't portray that of God.
Yeah.
So if you see a person that carry that that he explained, as you said, the person explained that the way he sees the person is the only sincere person on the face of the earth. Who can be that person? So what is wrong for that person to represent the way we even know who should represent God? Because the representation of God, the representative of God, is God himself. There's nobody that represents him. So what is wrong in that case for you to hear that thing you were seeing that you didn't know? Because we didn't know that God would be like this. But it comes with his character, his function, to show you that I'm not here to just say in a word, I am God. Because God is not a title.
He's not a person,
God is a
title,
function.
yeah.
Then you see the function of God and you are saying that it cannot be. So what kind of mentality
Well,
is that?
those shows you the same thing that is in the scripture that we are reading today. You remember when they said to Jesus, he said, for
the
every
work
good work I have done,
you have
but
done.
which of them are you stoning me off?
Okay.
He said, for the good work, we stone you not,
Yes.
but that you,
Made yourself
being a man,
Make it thyself.
make it thyself equal with God.
God.
He said, that is the reason that we stone you.
And that's why we are looking at the risk that is involved in having God in our midst.
Yes?
And
Because everybody is always looking at the benefits of having God, just as Brother Sylvia was saying, that when we talk about God coming or having God, all we think about is what we think he's
You
supposed to
gain.
do for us,
Yes.
what we think we will gain from having him around. But we are looking at the risk involved, because the gain or the things we can profit, let me not use gain, the things we can profit or benefit from God being around cannot be overemphasized.
Yes.
Meaning that the benefits of having him are so numerous and is sure.
Yes.
Be sure.
Is sure.
Yes.
This is in exclusion of the life that is the ultimate thing he comes with.
Yes.
The benefit of having God is assured. But we are looking at the risk involved in having God.
Ignoring this person.
In having God.
You know,
in our
it's
midst.
always because of that assurance that we have about the good things that we are hoping to have that always make us to forget that there is a risk.
Yes.
And you know, the only way we could avoid and we can avoid that risk is for us to have that consciousness in us that God is a person.
Yes.
So that we won't go out treating anyone that we see on the road as our follower. Because you might meet him on the road without knowing that he's
He
God.
is, yes.
So, but if you have that consciousness in you that, God
Could be.
could be a person, no.
Yes.
So I have to be careful. Even when we are, you can't be careful enough.
Yes.
But you still have that consciousness in you that God could be a person. So I will mind my step. I will mind the way I relate to everybody I come in contact with.
Yes.
With that consciousness, you will know that you will be able to avoid the risk.
That is one side of it.
Yes,
There's another thing that is very paramount, which is the reason why
Yeah. Here.
this forum is created. And today movement. This is the reason why the today movements come. As that title is, that necessity of knowing
When God.
who
He
God
is.
is when he's in our midst.
Yes. When we ignore
Because
him.
the risk. You see, why is it necessary to understand? If you watch today let's use the world today, the world,
Yes.
because it's not only Nigeria. Listen, the offense of one person, towards that personality in a generation, the offense of one person towards that person of God in a generation can cause the entire world a big problem.
Yes.
I'm not even talking of the Nigeria where the bet is coming from, because if you look at what is going on today in Nigeria, you can see the reason. But none of us out there understand that the reason why things are going the way it's going in Nigeria is because there is somebody that they are ignoring. You see, that's why I said that is one side of it. Because another side is that even when you do not have that consciousness, wherever you are, and he has choosing to bet himself where you are, and you can't recognize him because the consciousness is not there. The consciousness to have in case when you go out is another thing, because you would never even see him on the road. But today, things are not going well in the country, Nigeria. then extension to the world. But why? Can anybody tell us why things are this way? Because it's not that the people are not trying to make sure things are working. It's not. Everybody, the government is trying all they can to see how things can work. But instead of things to work, things are rather turning bad, more bad, and getting more bad every day. Why? That is why I said everyone listening to us must understand what this movement today is all about.
Yes.
Because we are not here to explain things to let somebody know who God is by explanation. We are letting somebody to know who God is by practical, when he's bettered himself in a generation, on how somebody need to understand where he is, what hope do we have towards having this kind of person, and what are the danger that we have if we keep ignoring this person.
Yes.
That is very important.
You know, as a man, when we say the topic is why it's necessary to know when God is in our midst. In our head, we interpret it to be that He is going to bring good things. But why it's necessary is why we are discussing today. Yeah. That God is not an option. It's not a choice for any man. It's just to know, to identify that this is God. Because if is God, it's not a choice you can make to say, okay, this is how I will do. I will choose to worship Him or not. That's why you know that there's a risk of ignoring that personality that is God, that we are not aware of. That's why we are sounding this warning this time, that there's something that, because before now, no man knows God. But now, here it is. We are saying that God is here with us. There's God in our midst. And there's no way you can identify that person without somebody coming to voice this thing out for you to know. So God is not a choice that the man will now decide to say, I will choose to worship or I will not choose to worship. Because even looking at the way we came, we didn't choose to come. So it's that spirit that brought us. He has what he wants to do in us. It's for us to know that if you don't answer to the one that brought us, which is that spirit that brought God, to say that you are the one that will father the people and guide them. So if any of us think that we have a choice, it's a risky path that we are taking, because it's to listen to what comes out from that person and take it in order for us to have peace that it comes with.
Basically, what I see as part of the risk, which I even consider to be the biggest of the risk, is the fact that we all believe that God is coming again, or Jesus Christ is coming again, and Jesus Christ signifies or represents God Himself.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we are saying that He had never existed with men.
Yeah.
So our belief of Him coming is an idea that has been rooted in our subconsciousness, that God would, in His appointed time, make Himself available in our midst.
Yes.
So we are asking, or we are trying to find out why it is necessary to know when that time of His appearance is due, or or when it occurs, rather.
Yes.
When it occurs, because we are looking at the risk that is involved when it occurs, because we are crying for God because things are not going well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when things don't go well, it's because you haven't done something correctly.
Yes.
That's why things don't go well.
Yes.
Just as you always keep giving, illustrating, so that you can't use the wrong formula to get the right answer.
Yes.
You must use the right formula to get the right answer.
Yeah.
So the chaos happening around the world is because we are using the wrong formula to seek for divine solution.
Yes.
So God is the right formula to get divine solution.
Yeah.
So the risk that is involved in that formula now showing up without us knowing, the risk involved in it is that we continue using the wrong formula even when he's on ground.
Yeah.
And he sees that as, just as you keep on saying, ignorance. Because you know, just as Brother Kufre said, we know that the issues we face in our world today is clear enough for us to understand that it's not in our hands to address them.
Yes.
So we go around trying to amend the situation and see how we can sustain ourselves. But in our minds, in our nature as man, we don't like to be seen as people who don't know what we are doing.
Yes.
So we have just assumed and we have just buried it downwards, and we try to carry our shoulders and like we know what we are doing.
Continue to do like
We know
that.
what we are doing, so we continue to do what we do. So the risk of having God in our midst is when we ignore him, because we are meant to seek for God.
Yes.
You understand? We are meant to seek for God. So our failure to seek for God is ignoring him when he's on ground.
Yes.
So our ignorance of God when he's on ground would definitely backfire on us.
Yes.
Because those things we do as a means of amending the issues we have will in time stop working for us.
Yes.
Which is why you see things going the way that they
Everything will
are going.
vanish.
Because it looks like, what happened? This is what we have been doing and it has been working for us. You hear most people say it. This is something we have been doing since the days of our fathers.
Yes.
So
How come?
Because he's on ground now, and definitely we are not supposed to continue with those things, because he's coming to judge us in righteousness,
Yes.
to change our ways, to show us the right way we should go. So he can't be on ground to do a work of correction and we still continue
With our
In
own
our
with our
old
own
ways.
ways and expect things to keep working for us.
Yes.
So that is one of the risks, if not the biggest risk, our ignorance to search for God, because we say it's only God that can help. So our work in quotes is to look for that God who is to help us.
Yes.
So that we have tried to clear the air that God who should help us is not in the sky.
Yes.
Which should make our search easier.
Yes.
Because he's now somebody we can see and access.
Yes.
So the search now should be easier to know that God could be anybody among the billions of people in the world, which is where the second part of the risk comes in. Because when you go around challenging people, are you God? Are you God? Are you God? When you have said that God cannot be a person, it's because subconsciously it has been imputed to know or to understand that God could just be somebody.
Yes.
So our challenge of are you God? Are you God? Are you God? You can just put that challenge to somebody, and that is God. You can be rest assured what will follow after, even if
the
it's
end.
not immediately.
Yes.
So that is a risk.
Yes.
So that's why it's important to know when he's on ground, so you don't go around doing things that will end up being detrimental to that spiritual life that you are
Looking
seeking
for.
for.
I would like, let me not use the word I would like, because this moment is very important in case our people are watching us. Our people in this, when I use the word our people, I mean those who are in top front of leadership in Nigeria. I don't know why I point this out, but I think it's necessary for me to do that. You see, I just make a statement. I said, when you look at the way things are going in the world today, the world is not turning out well. The world is crumbling. Things are happening.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's like the one happening in Nigeria is worse, because a finger is pointing to Nigeria. And people are asking, why are things like this? Some even go on to say that there is no God, because the way situations are, they are seeing, the way we are seeing the situation, we have seen that, if God really exists, why can't he fix this situation that we are facing? But the question, like we keep asking, which brother Savior have said, does God just come to fix your personal problem? The answer is no. But when God comes and he begins where you are, and you can leave that your personal problem and go to him and hear from him the guide on how the system, the problem, which is the system, can be fixed, then you see that consciousness of fixing the system automatically remove you from your own personal problem. That's what it is. Yes. That is why God does not come and solve a personal problem of a man, except when the man embraces that his way.
Yes.
But you are not embracing that way because you want him to solve your personal problem for you to now get access to where you go and make money. But if you understand the mystery that we have seen, it shows clearly that the reason why things cannot work in Nigeria right now is because that hand is still stretching, letting us to understand that I am the one to lead you.
Yes.
I am the one to lead you.
Yes.
I am the one to lead you. I am the one to bring the peace you are looking for, the security you are looking for.
And it's very unfortunate that we could not see it. Like
So it's time.
we couldn't see the handwriting on the word. That why things are the way they are in Nigeria today is because that personality is on ground.
Yes.
You know, we have this belief that when God is around, things will be moving smoothly.
Yeah.
But when he can't continue from where we stop.
Yes.
No.
He has to eliminate
That's our
Everything.
standard.
our ways, the foundation. You have to eliminate it. You have to bring it down. And that is what
He comes to
his
do.
presence is doing right now.
Yes.
His presence is destroying the foundation of men.
Yes.
And there's no tools, and there's no amount of you talking to the sky in the name of prayer that can solve it.
No.
Until we relocate that personality that is on ground, that's when things will come back to normal.
Yes. And I see why it's written in the Bible that we see it. That he said, without me, which is God, we can do, but it will amount to nothing. So indirectly, the one that is not written there is that with him, we can no more do. Because what we were doing that amount to nothing is because he wasn't there. But now that he's on ground, he said we can no more do without him. Because now he's present to do it. He's available to do it. You can no more carry out those things you were doing that when he was not around, that you still do, even though you amount to nothing. But now it's time to know that it's necessary that without, as he is around, that you can no more do
We should
anything.
stop all we are doing.
Somebody
Yes.
asked me, from everything I've been hearing from you, are you saying that this person is going to sit as a president of Nigeria? Do you understand?
Yes, it's for...
It's a good question to ask.
Yes,
I say bodily, I will say no.
yes,
That's what I said. Bodily, I will say no.
yes.
Spiritually, I will say yes.
Not even
Now, let me
only for
explain.
Nigeria.
I said, let me explain. If he's beginning the program to set the world back the way it's supposed to be in Nigeria, and first, the system of Nigeria, when they hear it and embrace its instruction, supposed to change the system. Because the system will change, but the system must change beginning from a certain place
Yes.
or a certain person whom he instructed first.
Yes.
Because that's how it is. When the spirit come in and hold a body to ransom to establish his presence, then when that present, from that his person now speak to you, you embrace his instruction, he begin to exchange your state.
Yes.
That's how it works. So if somebody from the system gain access to such a personality and hear from that person, because that person is not walking the street, it's a foundation.
Yes.
We are supposed to be the building. So any day the foundation want to be seen, you see that the building will be collapsed. Will be collapsing.
Will collapse.
So that personality is a foundation. That's why when we are talking this thing, it's like, these people, you see God? Where do you see God? Because of how and who we know God to be.
Yes. I know
So
we can
this
see him and
person,
live.
somebody need to understand that you can't see him anywhere. Even if you even see him on the road, you will never know. That's what makes the mystery with God. So if somebody can hear us and find out this thing that you people are saying, who is this person and how can I gain access to this person? You are gaining this access to this person so that I can talk to you and show you what you need to hear and apply it into the system. And once you do that, the spirit that brings him follow you and go and change things. Because why things cannot change is because the spirit of God is fighting back with men who are trying to fix things that belongs to him.
Yes.
So you see that the spirit is the one that is engineering all the problems that we are facing today. So if the spirit now can be agreeing with us, then you will know that things will go well. So if somebody access him and hear from him and do according to how he said, even when the person is in the office of authority, you see that that person now will become the one that will effect the change that humanity are waiting to see. But at that moment, you see that the person will know that it's not about him, but it's about the personality that have choosing to burn himself in the world.
So let me also ask something based on our states as men. Because we read in the Bible that no man can see God and live, which is why you are mentioned, you say you see God, you people are talking about God, you people have seen God. So no man can see God and live. It's not that when somebody meets with God or sees God, you will just die as what we know die to be. But you have to die. But the death you have to die is not the one to the ground. The death you have to die is to die off the activities of this world.
Yeah.
So actually, with that, you know that the death that no man can see God and live is not the death to the ground. So that when you hear what we are saying and listen to what we are saying, it seems like it's impossible. That why are we still living? You understand? The life we are living today is not about what we want, how we used to be, or what we want to become in the world, but rather how we can keep to the instruction of God that brought us, that he said that the duty of all of us that he brought is to fear him and keep his commandment. Yeah. That is our duty. Yeah. So that is what meeting
So
with God.
whatever next that will follow the state, that we do not know.
Yes.
Because you cannot cross from where you know to where you don't know.
Yes.
So that's what it is. So I don't know whether anybody still have anything to say. Because the way we have taken the movement, I think for me, I will say we end here first.
Yes.
Because if you continue to say this thing, it's the same thing we say every day. But today we try to put it
other forms.
Yeah, we try to put it in the form, in the way that anyone listening to us can understand what we are talking about. Why are these people putting this thing like this? So we are letting everyone to understand that it is not a wrong thing that God would be in our midst. In short, that is the only way we can get help.
Yes.
Whether you are a Christian, whether you are Hindu, pagan,
Muslim,
wherever religion you belongs to, or you don't also belong to anyone. All we are talking about here is God.
And God is not a Christian.
Let me come in. Because as we are in this forum now talking, our viewers out there may be like, what are these people saying? It's like they are saying their words. This is not our words. We did not bring ourselves into this world. We are saying that the Spirit of the Lord brought all of us into this world. And if we are ignoring God, we should know now that we are ignoring the very Spirit who brought you listening to us. You are ignoring him. Mm-hmm. It's not about us as we are hearing. Say, these people maybe you want to push what you are hearing aside. Know very well that if you do that, you have decided to fight the very Spirit who brought you. Yes. Because the Spirit who brought us into this world is the one that has brought God. He's anointed one. He has chosen. It is not for us to approve that person. Mm-mm. It is impository. The Spirit who brought us into this world is the one that knows that man cannot solve our problem. So we should come to know at this point in our world that we humans cannot solve our problems. The one who is the only one that will solve that problem is the Spirit of the Lord who brought us. And he is the one that have decided in his time to bring God, to choose the one that will lead us. So if we despise him and think that we are just, you are listening to young boys around, maybe what they are saying is not that important. Know very well that you are ignoring the very Spirit who brought us into existence to help us. Because this is about divine help. And it is only him that can help us.
And just throw a little light on what you just said about coming to solve our problem. Let's know that God is not coming to solve our personal problem.
We've said that. We've said that.
Because if you watch the account in the scripture, when he called a man to follow him, and he said, wait, suffer me first, let me go and bury
my father.
He said, let the dead bury the dead. Follow me. Mm-hmm. That shows us that when he's around, his focus is on how to solve the problem.
The roots of the problem.
The root of the problem, which is for the entire world, yes. Not for your personal problems. So that's what we need to understand.
And this thing you just pointed now, let the dead bury the dead. You know, there are questions that we keep asking. If the man that he was talking to, the man, the young, whether he was a young man, whether he was a young
Let's
female
assume.
that he was talking to, let's assume. What he's saying is that as long as you are not in that program, you are not a dead man. But if you are in that program with them, you are also one of the dead.
Yes.
Because we are the dead. Because what he's saying is that it's not that somebody that has been in the grave will come out and carry somebody that's just
Slept.
fell down and slept off and go and bury.
It's not-
It means the activities that we carry out
It's a dead
is
work.
that dead activities.
Yes.
Because we are dead. So if he's saying that to the activities of this world, which is what Sister Yuti said before, when she said that how do you put it, that a man that see God, no man see God and live. It's not that the man should see God and fall down and die and they bury him in the grave. But that when such a person come in contact with God, there's an instruction that God will place out, that's put out to the man.
Yes.
And the man will be embracing, that is following after those commands, which will automatically remove him from the activities of the world. It's like dying off the activities of man
Yes.
to be able to gain the life that is of God. That is what it is. So I will say this is where we will end our today's session. Because if we want to continue, we can take the whole day. Let's end it here. So if you have been following us, or maybe you are watching us for the first time, you need to understand that we that are here in this session, we are not from any religious group. No, we are not. Go to the fact that what religion has caused in our world. We don't need to explain that to you. You already know it already, but we are here talking about God, the God of heaven, who should come to set a standard for all men. That's why I said, whether you are a Muslim man, an Hindu,
Christian.
pagan, Christian, whatever religion you believe in, or you don't belong to anyone, well, they are all good. All those were meant to serve a purpose for waiting until the arrival of God.
Yes.
So this is the moment of God. This is the moment to do the work of God. This is not the moment to do the work that is in the name of God. So if you come across this our moment, you need to understand, like we keep saying, whether we are using somebody's video to analyze and you come across it, don't judge it. All you need to do is to listen to what we discuss and understand where we are going to, so that you can understand the repair that the world needs right now, that can only come from God. So that is what it is. If you want to be a part of our movement, let us know. Send us email through the email addresses on the screen. If you have any question that you want to ask, send us your mail through the email addresses on the screen, and we'll get back to you. If you want to be a part of those our live movement, we'll send you a link. When you indicate it, we'll send you a link. And that link, you use it to join us, maybe through Google Meet or Zoom meeting, Skype, any of the platform that you wish that we should send the link to you. The procedure that we use here doesn't require any monetary charge. We do not charge money for anything here. We are here for life. We are not here for money. So all you need is to have your internet working, then you are good to go. So bye for now.